The 1990s in the UK was an era full of firsts, fads, and unforgettable moments, when the country felt like it was constantly on the brink of something new. From Britpop dominating the charts to Euro 96 fever to the explosion of satellite TV, the decade was packed with cultural milestones that still stick in the collective memory. But one of the most significant moments came in November of 1994, when millions of people across the nation tuned in for something completely new: the launch of the National Lottery. It might be hard to imagine now, but back then the idea of a weekly lottery game being presented live on Saturday night TV was a huge deal. Presented by none other than Noel Edmonds, the launch of the National Lottery was a massive television event. Glitzy, slightly awkward, and very 90s, it marked the start of a new national obsession, with people queuing up for tickets at newsagents up and down the country, dreaming of becoming a millionaire overnight. In this episode of the 90s Rewind, we're revisiting the very first live broadcast of the UK's new National Lottery, looking at the hype, the build-up, the bizarre celebrity cameos, and of course the very first draw that kicked off a lottery legacy that is still going to this day. If you're into nostalgic trips through classic TV moments like this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps and means you won't miss out on future episodes. And with that, let's rewind the tape and take a look at how the National Lottery made its big live debut on British television. The very first live broadcast of the National Lottery draw started on BBC One at 7 p.m. on Saturday, November 19th, 1994. And the show kicks off first with actor and presenter Gordon Kennedy, who is at the National Lottery headquarters in Watford, giving us a brief rundown of what to expect, before we cross over to the main host, Noel Edmonds, who is behind the wheel of a truck transporting the lottery machine and the jackpot cash to BBC Television Centre. A clearly pre-recorded segment this, in which we see the truck passing by some of London's most famous landmarks, including Tower Bridge, St Paul's Cathedral, Trafalgar Square, and Piccadilly Circus. Noel then tells us that someone watching the show tonight is going to be made a millionaire, and it could be you.
Somebody watching this show is going to be made a millionaire, and it could be you.
We then get a first listen of that incredible original theme music for the National Lottery, composed by Ed Welch. Noel then drives the truck into the studio and the show is underway. Noel tells us that we'll soon learn how many tickets have been sold, the value of the total pool of money, and the jackpot up for grabs in this historic first National Lottery draw. We then cross over to co-host Anthea Turner, who is outside a Tesco in Nottingham with a large crowd of people, including Robin Hood. The hype for this at the time was truly extraordinary, and although I was very young at the time, I most certainly remember the buzz in the nation when the lottery was launched. We then go live to a completely random corner shop in Bearsden, Glasgow, to speak with a Mr. Lindsay, who tells us that everyone in the town is very excited and he is confident tonight's winner will come from north of the border.
Well, there's no doubt about it, we're confident. I think that you should drive that money up to Glasgow.
Back to the studio, and filling the majority of the time in tonight's broadcast will be a kind of game show of sorts, a series of games with a group of 49 people who will be whittled down to only one. And that person will have the privilege of pressing the button to start the very first National Lottery draw. The participants' names flash across the screen, and I couldn't help but notice that one of them is called Sugar Cane? Surely that must be a nickname. Anyway, 49 people are separated into 7 color-coded teams, and each has a number on their sleeve. In this first elimination game, 4,000 balls are released into the studio, and it's up to the contestants to find a ball with their number on it and place it into the correct receptacle corresponding to their color, with each one manned by a professional football referee. After completing this, contestants can also choose to help those in their team to find their balls too. The two teams who got the fewest number of their balls into the receptacles are eliminated. And can we just take a moment to appreciate how utterly ridiculous this game is? This is proper 90s primetime TV, everyone. Midway through this, we get a short interlude with Gordon telling us a little bit more about the lottery, including how to buy a ticket and how the money collected is divided, before coming back to the studio to learn that the pink and red teams have been eliminated. Back to Anthea now, who tells us a bit about how a percentage of the money raised from the National Lottery is going to the National Heritage Memorial Fund, and then it's back to the studio for our next elimination game. Noel tells us that there will be 5 more games played, and each one will be named after one of the 5 good causes the National Lottery is going to be funding. This next game is called the Heritage Game, and only one group of players will play. In this case, the blue team was randomly selected. A range of valuable antiques are introduced by Eric Knowles from the Antiques Roadshow, and after selecting numbers to determine the order of play, the contestants have to stand behind the item they think is the most valuable. The winner turned out to be Michelle Morris, who stood behind one of the original copies of Shakespeare's collective plays published in 1623, which is worth a whopping £1 million. Michelle goes through to the next round. We briefly go up to Anthea in Nottingham and Mr. Lindsay, who we now learn is called Hugh, in Glasgow, to find out how people are choosing their numbers for this historic draw. I very rarely play the lottery anymore these days, but if I do, I always choose days and dates important to my family and I, like birthdays and wedding anniversaries. What about you? Do you have set numbers you play every time, or do you go for a lucky dip? On to the next elimination game, which is sports themed, alluding to the fact that the National Lottery will donate money to help grassroots sport across the country. The white team is chosen to compete, each contestant has 7 numbered balls, and the aim is to score as many penalties as possible against 2 goalkeepers, who are Frank Bruno and Eric Bristow. This game doesn't seem all that fair, I think, as some contestants definitely scored penalties, but the ball then rolled back out of the goal, where it doesn't seem to count anymore. In any case, Phyllis King emerges the winner and goes through to the next round. We get a short interview next with Dr. Barry Blight from the London School of Economics, talking a bit about the odds of winning the National Lottery, which at the time, with the numbers 1 to 49 available to choose from, was around 14 million to 1. Barry tells us what seems pretty obvious, that there's no way of increasing your chances of winning, it's pure luck, and he thinks that's what makes it fun. Next, we learn a bit about the Charities Fund, which the National Lottery will be contributing to, and our next elimination game features the purple team fighting for a place in the next round. Each team chooses a random number that corresponds to one of the numbered lanes in front of them, and the aim is for the contestant to entice the dogs in each lane to come towards them. Each dog has a name on the side, but Noel reveals that those aren't even the real names of the dogs, so the contestants could have a hard time encouraging their dog to come towards them. The dogs are released, and as you'd expect, chaos ensues.
The derby is on!
Eventually, dog number 3 runs to the other side, and Eileen Glenn is the winner. Next, we learn that the tills up and down the country are now closed, meaning no more ticket sales can be made, and it's just a matter of time before we learn what the total prize fund is and what the jackpot on offer is going to be. We then get this absolutely epic introduction to the actual machine that will be drawing the balls later, Merlin. A member of the audience then selects which set of balls are to be loaded into the machine, A or B, and I must say they are absolutely milking this for all the suspense and tension they possibly can. The yellow team is up for the next challenge, the Millennium Game. A bit of a strange one this, as each contestant has to select a number of people from the audience so that when they and the audience members chosen stand on the scales, they collectively weigh less than £1,000. Go over £1,000 and they're out of the game, and whoever gets closest to £1,000 goes through to the next round. Randomly, Bad Boys Inc., if you can remember them, are then rolled out to get weighed to give the contestants an idea of how many people they should be bringing onto the scale. Honestly, who comes up with these games? Our contestants then run into the audience to select the people they want to get weighed with, and when it's all said and done, Debbie Walsh comes out the winner. Absolutely riveting Saturday night entertainment watching people weigh themselves. At Lottery HQ, we learn that a whopping 25 million tickets have been sold, meaning around 50% of the country have bought tickets for this first national lottery draw. Absolutely incredible. The draw master, John Willen, then loads the balls into the machine, feeling the need to name every number out loud as he does so.
For the people who like these things, they
3,
weigh
4,
80 grams each,
5,
51
6.
millimeters across.
Up next is the very first appearance of Mystic Meg, who would go on to become a staple of National Lottery broadcasts. Meg tells us that the winner is going to be a Scorpio whose name starts with the letter J and who is married to a Taurus or an Aquarius, and then we get another load of astrological nonsense from Jonathan Kaner, telling us which numbers he thinks are going to come up tonight. The green team now takes on the next hilarious challenge, where they all have to listen to some folks playing instruments that they only just learned how to play and identify what songs are being played. The Torture Chamber Orchestra, as Noel calls them, are conducted by the legendary George Solti, and although the playing is absolutely terrible, it's better than what I thought it was going to be, and certainly not that difficult to identify the songs. First, we have Yellow Submarine, then Ode to Joy from Beethoven's Ninth, and finally My Old Man's a Dustman. Two players from this game go through to the next round, Mark and Bridget. We now have 6 finalists, but who is going to be the lucky one to make history by starting the very first National Lottery draw? We learned that the total prize fund for this first draw is £22 million, and the jackpot on offer is a staggering £6.9 million, a lot more than what anyone was expecting it to be. We hear from a few hopefuls in Nottingham and Glasgow telling us about what they're going to do with the money if they win, before returning to the studio to whittle our 6 remaining contestants down to 2. And if you thought the challenges earlier were a little bit crazy, just wait till you see this one. The 6 contestants are split into 3 teams of 2, and the aim of the game is simple: build a jigsaw. The only problem is that the pieces are 30 feet away and can only be passed to them by their partners, who are harnessed with bungee cords into some kind of bouncy castle. This is absolutely spectacular television. Debbie and Mark emerge victorious and go on to the final round. To further tease the jackpot on offer tonight, Noel shows us the back of the Securicore van that contains a whopping £3 million in cash, as that's what Lottery HQ estimated the jackpot was going to be. Not sure if this is real money, but surely it can't be.
Anthea, how is it all going there? I suppose you want that back, don't you? Yeah, okay.
The crowd outside Hugh's shop in Glasgow has been growing as the hour has gone on, and now, just a few minutes before the draw, it is absolutely jam-packed outside. There are even police there helping to keep the crowds back. We come back to the studio and it's time to find out if either Debbie or Mark is going to have the opportunity to push the button that kicks off the UK's very first National Lottery. The final round is a quickfire question round where all of the answers are numbers from 1 to 49. Getting a question wrong awards a point to your opponent, and the first to 9 points or the highest score after a minute is declared the winner. The questions here are very easy, but this game is all about speed, and after the time runs out, Debbie emerges the winner by 7 points to 5. She has the honour of getting the UK's first National Lottery underway, and as luck would have it, today is actually Debbie's 18th birthday. And with that, we go straight into the UK's very first National Lottery draw. Drawmaster John Willen activates the machine and then drops the balls, and with everything set, Debbie presses the button and gets the draw underway. And to say that this is a little anticlimactic would be an understatement. There's no Alan Dedicoat reading out the numbers and stats, he wouldn't join the lottery team until the following year. Instead, we get Noel shouting out the numbers as they appear.
We've got a yellow! 44! 44! I wonder who's going mad at this moment.
The numbers for this first draw are 3, 5, 14, 22, 30 and 44, and the bonus ball is 10. We briefly cross back to Nottingham and Glasgow to see if there are any winners there, and there are a few people in the studio audience who got 3 and even 4 numbers correct. I don't think I've ever had more than 3 numbers before, and I'd love to hear your lottery stories. Have you ever won any money on the lottery before? Let us know down in the comments below. And with that, the broadcast of the very first National Lottery draw comes to an end, and a new era begins. The UK's National Lottery is still going to this day, although its popularity has waned slightly. Over the years, the lottery draw continued to be broadcast on primetime television, usually as part of a game show, including Winning Lines and Jet Set. However, in 2016, the BBC announced that it would no longer be showing the draws live, and the final ever live draw took place on December 31st, 2016, hosted by Gabby Roslin. If you're interested in watching the draws, they are broadcast live on the National Lottery YouTube channel, with the legendary Alan Dedicoat still holding the role of announcer. To be honest, I don't really play the lottery anymore. If there's a particularly big jackpot up for grabs, I might put a couple of lines on, but I think the appeal and novelty of the National Lottery has worn off on the British public slightly. While the chances of winning are minuscule, the National Lottery does some great charity work and donates a lot of the money raised to good causes. And with Allwyn Entertainment taking over operations in 2024, perhaps it will return to TV at some point in the future and will grow in popularity once again. There's no question that when the National Lottery was initially launched, there was pure lotto fever in the country, but I think it's unlikely that same passion and enthusiasm for the lottery will ever return. Many thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this look back at the launch of the National Lottery, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and memories about the 1994 launch in the comments below. Do you remember the excitement in the country back then? Do you still play the lottery? And have you ever won anything? Leave your comments down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.